working. Just triple check to make sure it all works. Just be Kelvyn, just make sure that all you're working. Yeah, all good, alright. Hello everyone, welcome to World of Football. Welcome to the final episode of Transfer Latest till the summer, because of course this is it's the deadline day today. I'm joined by Kelvyn. This is our La Liga Unleashed live special where this is all about the January transfer window. And of course the shocking news, well not shocking to me because as soon as I saw how crap Barcelona were, that I knew XAVI was going to leave or get sacked. So, not surprised me, but how are you doing, Kelvyn? How are we doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very good, especially after that beautiful Liverpool performance last night, spanking Chelsea 4-1. And for some reason, seeing how you guys lost 4-0 to Luton Town. Which I guess has helped, because Everton are now might get relegated, so thank you, Luton.
We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, it wasn't a great night for Brighton on Tuesday, but we were just talking before. It's been a pretty quiet transfer window everywhere, but we have to start, as you said, with the decision that Xavi's decided to leave Barcelona at the end of the season, following at the weekend a very shocking 3-5 home defeat to Villarreal. They were 2-0 down. They went 3-2 up, and then completely threw it away in the last 10 minutes. I think the pressure, we spoke before for the fact that he was clearly under pressure. The results and the performances weren't going their way. There's been lots of changes in the hierarchy at Barcelona. Deco and others have come in, and it certainly is giving the impression that he doesn't have the control and the authority that he clearly wants to have. So he's taken the decision to leave. We'll have to see who replaces him. Could be Rafa Marquez, could be someone else. We'll have to see. There's going to be lots of speculation between now and the end of the season. But as you said, we're mainly here to discuss deadline day and some of the other bigger transfers that have happened this month in La Liga. Like in the Premier League, it's been a fairly quiet month. Not too much has happened, but stuff could be happening today. If we're just focusing on today to start with, the biggest, well, not the biggest, but one of the main deals could be a La Liga player leaving to go to the Premier League, and that's the Turkish striker Enes Ünal. He's been at Getafe for a couple of seasons. He's done really well. He got injured towards the end of last year, so he's missed the vast majority of this season. But I think Fabrizio Romano said this morning that there's a deal on loan with an obligation to buy to take him to Bournemouth, around 16 million euros. So that's around 14 million pounds. We'll have to see because of course the interesting thing is because not just deadline day today, Getafe play tonight. They play Real Madrid in a derby in a catch-up game because of the Spanish Super Cup. So we'll have to see how Getafe cope because their main striker, not this season, but their main striker in general is leaving, and there's a couple of other. Angel Correa was attracted a lot of interest from Saudi Arabia, but I reckon he's going to stay at Atletico between now and the end of the season. Also, Fabrizio Romano was also the top, just going through deals that could happen today. The Tottenham striker Alaco Veliez is in Seville having a medical to join Sevilla on loan. It's just a loan, no buy option at all. So we'll have to see how that one moves forward. It's probably, I think for the fact that Sevilla, that they want to allow Rafa Mir to leave today, so they need another striker to fill in the gaps. And I've not seen too much of him because he's not had that many minutes at Tottenham in the Premier League, but we'll have to see what he does. But if we just quickly, we'll go back to today. Let's have a look at the month. Not a lot has happened. I mean, Atletico Madrid have made a couple of signings. Arthur Vermaelen, who you probably saw in the Champions League at Royal Antwerp's gone, I think, around 18 million euros. He made his debut last night, played the first half in their narrow win against Rayo Vallecano. He's definitely one for the future. Lots of positivity spoken. Lots of people have spoken highly about him, so we'll have to see how he does in these 6 months. Hopefully, he'll get many opportunities to play in La Liga this season. So we'll have to see how he does. I mean, in terms of today, I think the club that's going to be the most busy are going to be Real Betis. They've lost quite a few people. Borja Iglesias, their main striker, has gone to Bayer Leverkusen on loan with an option to buy in the summer. They've just before we came on air, they sold Luis Enrique back to Brazil to Botafogo, around 20 million euros. I believe it's a record deal actually paid by a Brazilian club. And just going on to Betis, they're definitely after a striker. They're interested in Chimi Avila, who's at Osasuna, who's likely to leave. Literally, most of the Liga clubs who want a striker are looking at the possibility of signing Chimi Avila, so he could go anywhere today. In terms of other deals that Betis could do, talks are progressing with West Ham over Pablo Fornals, the Spanish attacking midfielder, who Pellegrini actually took to West Ham when he was West Ham manager from Villarreal. So he's another one that could. Betis have been looking at that one for quite a while. I think there was talks earlier on in the window, but the money wasn't quite what West Ham wanted. But that figure appears to be getting closer. We still don't quite know what that figure could be at the moment, but there's still plenty of time for Betis to get that deal done. As I said, Chimi Avila is a possible striker. They're also interested in Paston Daka, who's currently at Leicester. Who joined them last year when they were in the Premier League. He was also of interest to Brighton, but he chose to go to Leicester. And he's another one that could go, but Betis don't have too much money, so I think a striker will come in, but we'll have to see who it could be. And there's one other deal that I wanted to ask you about, because of course I know, Henry, that you're French. Sevilla, it was really earlier on in the window, signed Lucien Agawami, is that correct, from Inter? That's it, yeah.
Let me double check.
Yeah, I think the pronunciation is Lucien Agawami. Is a French defensive midfielder who they've taken on loan from Inter Milan until the end of the season. I think there's a buy option, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I was just seeing that because, of course, you know the French players quite well. If you'd seen him play too much, and if you think that'll be a good deal for Sevilla. I mean, they do need young, energy legs in midfield, and he seems to be providing that in the only game that I've seen him play so far since joining Sevilla.
Do you know what number he is for Sevilla, Inter? Just so I can see if I can find him easier. Do you know his shirt number at all?
For Sevilla, it's 42.
No, for Inter.
I don't know what he wore at Inter, unfortunately, but
what's his first name?
Lucien, Lucien.
Yeah,
he only joined Sevilla earlier this month. He hasn't featured too much.
Okay, I see.
For them yet, because they've also signed Hannibal on loan from
Lucien Agawami. So
that's it. Yeah. So, as I said,
I haven't seen much from him because he's played for France, but he's born in Cameroon, but he chose to. He might still choose to play for Cameroon, but he's in the under-21, so I don't really keep much of date with the under-21 stuff. But from what I'm seeing, he looks quite good. He's been on loan a lot though. Spezia, Brest, Troyes, down Sevilla. Of course, he started his career in France. He doesn't look too bad, but you never know. He might be another play. You know, he might work really well, and then we might have another Tchouaméni on our hands.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we'll have to see how he does between. As I said, he's only featured once. Sevilla, as we know, they're in a little bit of crisis at the moment. They're definitely in the relegation battle in La Liga. So we'll have to see how they cope with that between now and the end of the season. They should stay up. They've got the quality to do so. And going on a few of the other Sevilla transfers, as I mentioned, they signed Hannibal, they signed Agwami. They've allowed Ivan Rakitic to go to Saudi Arabia, so that frees up money in terms of the wages. As I said, that they are in the process of getting Alejo Velez from Tottenham to add to their striking options. They're doing that because they want to allow Rafa Mir to leave and go back to Valencia, the former Wolves striker who spent a large chunk of his youth career at Valencia. Today, actually, Valencia submitted a loan bid. I think it was around €4 million by option in the summer. But the stumbling point at the moment is that Valencia only want to pay around 30% of his wages, which Sevilla have actually called the offer disrespectful. So we'll have to see if Valencia do that. They've had a bit of a quiet window, but Peter Lim, as always, has found a way to take a very good side and maybe muck it up a bit. They've allowed Gabriel Paulista to go to leave the club for nothing, because he was close to extending his contract by another year, because there was clauses that if he played X number of games that he could stay for another year. Peter Lim didn't want him to do that, so they've allowed him to go to Atletico Madrid on a free transfer. I think only until the end of the season, but if he does well at Atletico, there's every likelihood that will be extended. I mean, Valencia, the only other deal they've done this month is to sign a young Spanish winger called Peter Gonzalez on loan from Real Madrid. He's featured a couple of times for the first team, but he's mainly been a Real Madrid Castilla player. So we'll have to see if he gets minutes from Real Madrid this season. Now, I know that you wanted to ask me about Martin Zubimendi, is that right?
Yeah, obviously Zubimendi, I think we pretty much know for sure he's not leaving in January, but we all know that there is huge talk about him, because I can see Partey leaving in the summer for Arsenal and maybe going to Saudi Arabia and then trying to get Zubimendi. Do you think Zubimendi, because obviously last time you said he was close to joining Arsenal, do you think Zubimendi to Arsenal this summer could happen?
If Arsenal want him, then it's possible. I mean, his release clause is €60 million, and Arsenal will have to pay that, by the way. There's no way Real Sociedad will negotiate. They're not in a financial... Some Spanish clubs, like Betis, they're in a financial situation that they have to sell before they buy. Real Sociedad aren't really in that position. They don't have to do that. Zubimendi he's one of them. He's a local boy. He's come through the academy. He's Basque. He's a fantastic player, as we all know. So it's possible, but Arsenal will have to pay that 60 odd million euros. They'll have to pay it if they want him. It's definitely possible. It's probably more possible if Real Sociedad don't re-qualify for the Champions League, which, because of the form of Girona and the form of their biggest rivals, Athletic Club, I think it's a strong possibility that they don't re-qualify for the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible, but he may give Real Sociedad another year, because he is closely affiliated to the club. As you said, that there are other Premier League clubs that could do with him. I think he'd be perfect for Liverpool. I think he's exactly... I know you're a Liverpool fan. He's exactly what you need.
I really do think, with the fact that Klopp's leaving in the summer, and I'm 100% convinced that the next Liverpool manager will be Xabi Alonso. I think he looks like a very Xabi Alonso kind of player, because Xabi plays like a back three or back five. At the moment, he's playing 5-3-1-2, or Patrick Schick up top and Boniface. And I think you have a two midfield of McAllister and maybe McAllister in 8, and then Trent Alexander right back, and then you have Zubimendi and McAllister in that midfield. That's what I did in my FIFA, because I think Zubimendi for me is the perfect player, because yes, Endo's been very good this season for Liverpool, even though we've got him Stuttgart from really cheap, and I think he's been... When we played Arsenal at the Emirates, when we played him at Anfield, Endo outclassed Declan Rice at 30 years old, and everyone thought he was crap. He's been one of the best CDMs in the league, better than Caicedo. But he is getting on, and he's clearly like a stopgap player, and we need a proper player. And I think Zubimendi, to me, is the closest thing we're going to get for Spain to Rodri. And I think if he plays well, we could have two Spanish CDMs, Rodri 1 and Rodri 2 kind of players, battling for each other, and have a Liverpool City title race. But what do you think? You think though it's a better option for him to go to Liverpool than to Arsenal?
I don't think it necessarily... I would say yes, now I think about it, but only because Arsenal have Declan Rice. And even though Zubimendi can play as a 2 with another defensive kind of, as you said, 6 holding midfield player, I personally think he's better on his own. Because at Real Sociedad, he plays on his own with Bryce Mendes and Mikel Merino more advanced of him. And I think he likes that because it gets him more on the ball. He likes to, particularly at Real Sociedad, because of the way they play, they build from the back. He likes to link with the 2 centre-halves, Igor Zubodia and Robin Lenormand, mainly in their main team unless Aguasil's rotating. I just think it makes more sense for him to go to Liverpool because he'll play more. He knows he'll go to Liverpool and he starts.
Yeah, starts.
He goes to Arsenal, they've got Declan Rice. Where's he going to play? How's he going to play? So yeah, I think logically it makes more sense for him to go to Liverpool because of game time, even though maybe Arsenal's slightly more possession-based style of play probably does suit him a little bit better. But Zubimendi has the quality to adapt. As you said, he'd easily be Spain's defensive midfielder if it wasn't for the fact that Rodri's there, and Rodri's probably at the moment the best in the world in that role, in that position. So we'll just have to see. But as you said, nothing's going to happen with Martin Zubimendi today. Nothing. He's not going to leave. Unless someone pays the 60 million in the next. Even if they do that, I don't think he'd go. I think if he is going to go, it'll be in the summer. As you said, Arsenal and Liverpool, I gather, would be the favourites to get him in the Premier League because they're the 2 clubs that need him. I don't see him going to United because of the mess United are in. And if I was Liverpool, yeah, I'd be, as you said, with Xabi Alonso, if he does become the guy to replace Klopp, which I think most of us believe he will do. You know, and also Xabi Alonso's been at Real Sociedad, so he'll know Zubimendi. He may not have worked with him too much in the academy because Zubimendi, I think, was the first team player when Xabi Alonso started to coach the B team there. But he'll know Zubimendi. He'll know people who know Zubimendi. He played that position, so Zubimendi is going to learn lots of him if they do eventually at some point link up in their. If Zubimendi does link up with Alonso at Liverpool.
100%. And listen, for me, in terms of, you know, us in the transfer window, I believe that Liverpool next summer will probably, because I have a big feeling that Mohamed Salah will probably leave in the summer to go to Saudi Arabia, because the last chance for getting massive money from an Al Ittihad are going to definitely come back with like £100 million bid. So I would not get, I don't want to get rid of Salah, but Liverpool are sell to buy, so I'd sell him, and then Liverpool will look for another winger. And this is the next question I've got to ask you. This is about the summer as well. I've seen reports that we are looking at the Salah replacement. We've got loads of players in Bakayoko from PSV, but one of them plays at Sociedad as well. I'm pretty sure. We're looking at Kubo. Do you think Kubo could? And he's definitely not as good as Salah, and I don't think he can replace Salah, but we need someone to play another attack if Salah leaves. Do you think Kubo could be the, let's say, the next right winger for Liverpool?
Again, I think it's another one that's possible. I think it's one that, you know, Kubo, he fits the kind of profile that Liverpool like. He's a little bit under the radar. I mean, this season's been his best season, but by a distance. He's been in La Liga for many years. He was at Barcelona as a youngster, but then he had to leave because when Barcelona got that transfer ban for not doing stuff properly, over signing young players, Kubo was one of them. He then went to Real Madrid. He had a couple of loan spells at Mallorca. He had a spell at Getafe. He had a spell at Villarreal under Unai Emery, which didn't work at all. He's then gone to Real Sociedad, and every year he's gradually got better. So I think Kubo would be. It would make sense for Liverpool to be interested in Kubo. He's a very small. He's left-footed. Comparisons there to Salah. He's not a natural. His goal tally isn't as high as Salah's. He's not that, but he's very good at running at defenders, taking people on. He does have a goal in him. He's a very good crosser of the ball, because at Real Sociedad he's mainly been playing with tall strikers, whether that's Sorloth, Sadiq, Oyarzabal's not too bad in the air. He's played in a team that like to press high, so he's used to that because Liverpool do that. I'm sure Xabi Alonso or whoever goes there will carry that over. So, as you said, Kubo to Liverpool does make a lot of sense. I believe his release clause is similar to ZUBIMENDI, around 50, 60 million. I know Real Sociedad are talking to him over a new contract to try and get that release clause higher, because Real Sociedad know that he's going to be interested. Just one more thing on Real Sociedad. Another player that's been linked to various clubs in England, and Barrenechea renewed his contract until 2030 last week. His release clause has jumped up significantly to around 75 million euros. So that probably puts a number of Premier League teams off signing him for the next couple of years. But yeah, to answer your question, is Kubo a possibility to Liverpool? I would say yes.
Because I can't think of lots of right wingers out there. You know, you got Leroy Sané, but Leroy Sané prefers in Germany, and he's getting older. And this is why, for me, it has to be someone like Rafael Leao or Kvaratskhelia or someone like Kubo. You've got to go young, and you've got to go someone who can be in the team for a long, long time. And I think it's also going to be with Xabi. I think Xabi might be looking at some players from Bayer Leverkusen like Florian Wirtz, which I really do rate. And talking about Liverpool as well, and this is why it didn't go as I planned, because I had thought if they had kept Xavi for one more year, this would have been the perfect job for Klopp to do next, into rebuilding Barcelona. But because they're going to get a manager in the summer, I think Klopp's out the window now, because Klopp's definitely taking a year and a half break. And I don't know let me know what you think, Kelvyn, but I really, really do think that I think there's two good jobs for Klopp after he leaves Liverpool in the summer. That's Germany for the World Cup, or taking on a project like Barcelona, because I really do think with Jurgen Klopp at Barcelona, we will see this scary Barcelona return.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to, as you said, Klopp is definitely going to take a break. And as you said, Barcelona will need a coach in the summer. The pressure of that job at Barcelona at the moment is so intense, and that's part of the reason, as I said earlier, why Xavi's going. He's clearly fallen out not with the president Laporta, but I think last summer they lost Matteo Armeni and Jordi Cruyff, who were two people that were kind of the two main sporting directors and helping Xavi. Mm-hmm. And Xavi clearly had the trust of them. They both left. Deco's come in, and everything's kind of broken down. There's clearly different ideas. There's even rumours that earlier on that Deco wanted to sack Xavi and bring someone else in. Laporta apparently dismissed that straight away. Laporta didn't want... I mean, Xavi hinted it a few weeks ago when he said, if I don't win anything, I'll leave. Now, maybe after that... he said he decided a few days before the Villarreal game that he was going to go, and maybe the emotion of the game made him just think, I've had enough, I need to go. There's clearly... the players... The performances have not been great, as we've said on here. I mean, they played last night. They won 1-0 against Osasuna, but they weren't convincing. A first goal for their only January signing, really, Victor Roque, the young 19-year-old striker who hopefully in the future will do stuff for them, but there's a lot of pressure on him now. But quickly going back to it, because you said about... of course, Klopp, I think, at some point would be interested in going to a club like Barcelona, because it's Barcelona. As you said, I personally think it's more likely that he'll take the Germany job whenever it becomes available. Now, of course, Nagelsmann will be in charge for the Euros this summer. We'll have to see how he does their host nation as well, so there's going to be even more pressure on them to do that. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But just... if we focus a bit more now on who could replace Xavi, because we know Xavi's gone. He's decided that himself. As I said, Rafa Marquez is the cheapest option because he's the B team coach. He's a former player and Mexican defender. The reports coming out of Barcelona is that they don't think Rafa Marquez is ready, and they want a more experienced manager. Laporta is a massive fan of German coaches, so not just Klopp. If I had to predict a favourite right now, it's Hansi Flick.
I was going to say the same thing. Hansi Flick seems the best option.
Because financially, it's relatively straightforward. I mean, difficult for Barcelona because they're in a financial mess. But he's not contracted to another club or to a national team because Germany has sacked him. He is someone that Laporta spoke to at length before giving the job to Xavi, because Laporta didn't originally want to give the job to Xavi when they decided to sack Koeman. As I said, Klopp is someone that Laporta would love to bring in, but as you said, Klopp has said, I'm taking a break. If he leaves Bayern Munich, I think Thomas Tuchel has openly said he wants to coach in La Liga and he wants to coach in Spain. So that could be one. As a Brighton fan, I have to mention Roberto De Zerbi. I don't think he's ready for the job at Barcelona, particularly this Barcelona. And I personally think De Zerbi is being lined up to be Pep's replacement at Manchester City. That's my guess in 2025, but anything can happen between now and then. And of course, Barcelona's financial predicament means there will have to be a lot of sales this summer. Mainly, I think Robert Lewandowski will have to go.
Yeah.
Because his performance levels have completely, they've nosedived this season. His wages keep going up every year, so they need to find a way of bringing that down. So I think there's every chance, if we just talk about the summer briefly with Barcelona, Lewandowski goes. I don't know what's going to happen with João Felix or Cancelo. They're only on loan. Ansu, of course, goes back from his loan at Brighton. And I think they'll try and sell him to the Premier League, whether that's back to Brighton, probably not. Maybe someone else in the Premier League will take him, because Barca will need all the money they can recoup. Unless they go really far into the Champions League, that might ease the burden a little bit. I don't personally think they'll do that because the team's too inconsistent. The performance is not great. But they could get past Napoli in the next round, because Napoli haven't been that great either.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of positivity there for Barcelona. And also between now and the end of the season in La Liga, they've got to go to Real Madrid, they've got to go to Girona, and they've got to play Atletico Madrid away from home as well. And in the battle for top four, that's going to be very difficult for them. But we'll have to see what Xavi does, how Barca do. I personally don't think there's any way Xavi sees out the season.
No, I agree with you. Like I know he says that he's going to leave in the summer, but they've already they just keep losing games. They bottled it. Then they bottled it. They bottled it in the cup. When they're winning, or were they losing in the cup against Bilbao?
They went 1-0 down after about 20 seconds, which is a trend of Barcelona this season. They tend to start games really, really slowly. They then went 2-1 in front. So they did ball it. And Athletic Club pulled it back. But the biggest collapse is actually it was in La Liga at the weekend.
The Villarreal one. Yeah.
They were 2-0 down. Gerard Moreno and Ilias scored for Villarreal. Funny thing is, of course, Ilias is ex-Barcelona. Barca then make it 3-2 with 10 minutes to go. An own goal by Eric Bailly, and I've forgotten who scored now. And Barca got it to 3. Gundogan scored, and one other. Barca got it to 3-2. They were really in control of the game, and then Villarreal made it 3-3. Great goal by Golonko Guedes, who's got on loan to Villarreal from Wolves because he had his loan cancelled at Benfica. Guedes is someone that the Villarreal coach Marcelino has worked with before from Marcelino's time at Valencia. Sorloth made it 3-4. You'll have to see the goal on YouTube. It's one of the most comical defending goals you'll ever see this season. And then Barca just went all guns blazing going forward. Ronald Araujo missed a chance. Villarreal went on the counter-attack, and Morales scored in the last seconds to make it 3-5. Barca should be helped by the fact that Marc-Andre ter Stegen is close to returning from his injury, which makes them better because he's a better goalkeeper than Iñaki Peña. But they have lost Balde for the season, but Balde wasn't in the greatest form. They're being careful in how they use Pedri. Ferran Torres, who's been probably their best attacker in recent weeks, he got injured last night, could be out for a while. Lamine Yamal is their next best player. He's only 16 years old, a lot of pressure on him. They've lost XAVI for the season. And, they're not going to be bringing anyone in today to strengthen the squad. So yeah, I think the end of the season is going to be very interesting to see how Barca do, because it's very rare that you get an announcement of a coach going this early. You may get it, middle of April with only a couple of games left with nothing to play for. Whereas, okay, Barca are out the Copa and they're not going to win the La Liga title, but they still need fourth. They need top four for the financial thing it brings them. Without it, they're going to, if they don't get top four, if they're beaten by Atleti and Athletic Club and Girona, they're going to be in really big trouble. And they're still in the Champions League, as I've just mentioned. They've got Napoli in the next round of the Champions League in a couple of weeks' time. So it's, as I said, I can't see XAVI seeing the season. But then the question mark then, do they bring Rafa Marquez in on a short-term basis? And if he does well, we could be in a similar situation like Man United were when they brought Solskjaer in. They brought Solskjaer in on a short basis. He did really well. And then United were like, well, do we give him the longer contract or do we go for someone else? In the end, they gave it to Solskjaer. So, but we'll just have to see how Barcelona do. The whole club is financially a mess, a bit like Sevilla, who are on the third. If we move on to Sevilla, they're on their third coach of the season now, Quique Sanchez-Flores, former Watford and Atletico Madrid and various other clubs. He's been at Getafe mainly, and Sevilla are being really dragged into a relegation battle. I think Sevilla have won one game since Sanchez-Flores came in, which was his first game, a 3-0 win up at Granada. They've lost the majority, but they drew against Osasuna at the weekend. So we'll have to see how they do this weekend, and because they need wins. As I said earlier, they're trying to get Rafa Mir in, they're trying to get Rafa Mir out to get players in. They've allowed Rakitic to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I heard about that news, and in terms of Barcelona, as you said, everything is going downhill. What do you think would happen to Barcelona? Let's say it all goes to shit. Xavi still stays, but the club keep free falling, and they end up in the Conference League next season. How bad do you think that would fuck up Barca?
Well, it won't be great. I don't think they'll go as low as 7th. I think if they don't make Champions League, they'll be Europa League.
Yeah.
But of course, they might be saved by the fact that we know the Champions League rules are changing, and Spain and potentially England could be the two nations that have 5 Champions League spots. There's no guarantee of that yet. We need to see how the competitions are played out the remaining part of the season. We'll have to see how that does. But of course, it's financially it's going to put them under a lot of pressure because they pay high wages to a lot of their players, as I was mentioning earlier with Lewandowski. They're going to have to try and shift them, and this is the problem Barcelona were in 3 or 4 years ago. They needed to get rid of players, and the players were going, I'm on a lot of money, I'm not going anywhere. Particularly in the case of Lewandowski, the reports are that his wage goes up every year.
Yeah.
Not related to performance bonuses, not related to how many goals he gets or appearances he makes. His contract just goes up every year. So, and his performance levels, as I said, they've not been great for many, many weeks now. And I'm sure in the summer, Barca will probably just have to go maybe minus 2 or 3 players that they really want to keep. But really, even the ones they want to keep, your Pedris, your Gavis, Araujo's, Balde, Fermin Lopez, Ter Stegen, if you offer enough money for those players, Barca will have to accept it, particularly if the scenario that you said happens, if they completely drop and go to 7th. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll be top 5. Hopefully for them, they get top 4, so there's no thing of needing the 5th Champions League spot to become available for them. But it's just as you said, it's a mess. It's just they spent lots of money, basically future money, by pulling the levers they did. So basically, money that was supposed to be guaranteed in the future, they got early and spent it on the likes of Lewandowski, on Rafinha, on Ferran Torres, even on Aubameyang before that. in the hope that we've got top players, we've got XAVI, we'll reach the semi-finals and that of the Champions League. And of course, last year they didn't. Last couple of seasons actually, they didn't even get out their group and dropped into the Europa League. This year they've been helped by the fact that they actually topped their group, even though, as we mentioned before, they came close to throwing it away by losing to Shakhtar and losing at Antwerp. But thankfully, when they lost to Antwerp, they'd already qualified, so that game didn't really have a major effect on the chat. And then they've ended up getting Napoli, which is, in hindsight, you can never tell. But looking at it, it's probably one of the best draws they could have got, because, as I've said, Napoli. From talking to people that know stuff about Italian football, Napoli have not been in the greatest form this season either. After both sides won their domestic leagues last season fairly comfortably.
Listen, I think I honestly I could see Barcelona and Napoli going to penalties. It'd be very close both games because both teams are not good, and the amount of injuries I think the injuries Barcelona are having may really screw them up. And looking into the summer for Barcelona, I think we probably will see stuff like João Felix and Cancelo. I think both of them will not sign because they can't afford them. They cannot afford them. Like, I think João Felix would definitely, for me, leave Atletico Madrid. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Premier League club going for João Felix. Chelsea aren't going to go back for him. Maybe Arsenal? Maybe someone like that. I don't think Arsenal will go for João Felix, but I think a team like that could go in for a João Felix, and Cancelo will leave Manchester City for sure. But yeah, it's interesting to see who the next manager will be, because, as you said, I'm convinced XAVI will not leave in the summer. He will leave earlier because there's no sign this is going to improve. And Laporta might be going, okay, he's leaving in the summer, but by the time he leaves in the summer, we might be more fucked than we are now.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend now on the two games against Napoli. If Napoli knock him out, then that could be the catalyst for Laporta making the decision to say, right, XAVI, I'm getting rid of you now. Particularly in that point, if they have a strong idea of who could come in. Let's say Hansi Flick's available and he calls up Hansi Flick and he said, do you want to come in now? Because then Hansi Flick can have a bit of a period to work out, to work with the players and work out, in an ideal situation, who we would like for next season. I mean, it may not be possible, but who they'd like for next season. As you said, João Felix, that could be a problem. You're absolutely right, by the way. There is no way he'll stay at Atletico Madrid next season. But I can't see the Premier League taking him either, because he was okay, but he wasn't brilliant at Chelsea.
Yeah.
He command a lot of money. And the problem with João, as we've seen at Barcelona and we've seen at his time at Atleti, he's a fantastic player, but he's very inconsistent. I mean, I think he's only got 4 La Liga goals this season, and the only time his 2 best games have probably been against Atletico and the games against Porto in the Champions League. Mm-hmm. Games where the atmosphere around him is a bit different because Atleti can't stand him anymore, and Porto will never like him because he came through the academy of Benfica. As you said, João Cancelo, out of the two, if Barcelona, we can only afford one, I would try and keep Cancelo more because they need a right back. Yeah. Even though, in recent weeks, as they did last night because of Balde's injury, and even when Balde's form dropped, they've moved Koundé to right back like last year, and been playing Cancelo at left back, where he actually plays slightly better for them, I think, at left back than he does at right back. But as you said, financially, they're going to be in a very difficult position to afford them both, unless Man City and Atleti are that determined to get rid of them that they'll sell them at a cut price deal, which Man City may do that. Atleti need money themselves to reinvest in the team. I know they've, as we said earlier, they've bought a couple of people in, Arthur Vermaelen from Antwerp. Gabriel's arrived from Valencia. I don't think they're going to do anything else today. They did have a deal in place for Moise Kean, but he failed his medical. So that's not going to happen today. Not that Atleti needed him, really.
Yeah.
Particularly if Correa stays. They've got Correa, Griezmann, Morata, and Memphis. Not many clubs in Europe have that for quality of strikers. When you factor in, of course, Morata's having the season of his life. Memphis has been in really good form. Griezmann's been different class, and Correa never lets them down when he starts occasionally or when he comes on from the bench. There was no need for Atletico to add Moise Kean, but I gather they were doing that because they assumed that Correa was going to Saudi, which it now looks like now he's not.
There's the thing with Moise Kean, right? Moise Kean, he doesn't stay at a club. I just always see him on loan. He went to Everton with Carlo Ancelotti, and then went back to Juventus. That didn't really do much, and it's very, very, very strange. But since I haven't got much time, I have to get ready because I have to go teach my dad's friend's son playing guitar, and of course MHU tonight.
Of course.
Let's quickly finish off with, would you say this has been an average transfer window for La Liga for January, or would you say this is a more calmer version of the January transfer window for January, for example? And lastly, do you expect anything to happen today? Other than anything that we don't know, like something happened last minute?
January windows in La Liga for a number of years now have been fairly quiet. It's not always been the case in the Premier League, but even though this year it kind of has been. So it's not been a major shock to me. In La Liga, there's a lot of loan deals with options or obligations to buy in the summer. I don't think too much is going to happen today. We've gone through some of the ones that will happen today. Rafa Mir to Valencia. Chimi Avila is going to go somewhere. The only club that may be chaotic between tonight and the window closing is Real Betis, because they've allowed, as I said, Luis Enrique to leave, Borja Iglesias to leave. I believe William Carvalho, the Portuguese international, there's every chance that he can leave to Besiktas, and they want to bring in a couple of players. As I mentioned earlier, talks are progressing with Pablo Fornals with West Ham. They're definitely after a striker, whether that's Chimi Avila, Cedric Bakambu, who used to play in La Liga, but I think he's away at AFCON, I believe, so that might complicate things. As I've said, Paston Daka could be one. Luis Rioja could be a player that leaves, who's one of the main players at Alaves. He's another player that Betis are looking at as well. But I don't expect anything really major to happen. Maybe the only other thing to mention is that Bayern Munich, who did a deal earlier on this month to take Brian Zaragoza, the young winger from Granada, there's every chance that Bayern Munich want him now. So that is being sped up. And I mean, Granada have bought in Facundo Pellistri from Man United on loan. And Granada could look for another striker or a winger/striker to compensate for Brian going early. But there could be a couple of deals. Villarreal could be busy as well, but nothing that's going to set the world alight. But if I had to pick, let's say, a club that's going to be really busy between now and the deadline tonight, I'd say Real Betis could bring in, I would say, at least 2, maybe 3.
Well, let's hope we see some more stuff, of course, in terms of the transfer ladies. This is obviously the last show before the window closes. I personally expect nothing to be done in England tonight. Liverpool definitely not signing anyone because it makes 0 sense. Klopp's leaving. There's no point signing someone now for the next manager not to want. So now I kind of understand why we're not doing anything. I think you guys are fine. You've got your new Argentinian left back.
Valentin Barca.
Yeah, and I think you just signed someone else, didn't you?
Brighton. There's a couple of youngsters Brighton could sign, but if Brighton do anything for the first team, the only name that has been cropping up is Brian Hill, the Spanish winger formerly of Sevilla and Eibar. He could move to Brighton today on loan from Tottenham, but as you said, that's the only thing first team wise. I think Brighton, as you know, in January we always sign a couple of players for the youth team. I think there's Josh Robertson, a young attacking midfielder at Sunderland, that's likely to join us today. And as I said, Brian Hill, I think, is the only first-team player if Brighton do anything today. But I'm with you. Apart from that, I don't think Brighton will do anything else to the first team. I know Brighton have been linked with Dewsbury Hall from Leicester. I can't see that happening because Leicester are asking for well over £40 million.
And especially since, Leicester are trying to get back in the league, they're going to want to keep him as much as possible. And I think
Absolutely.
I honestly don't think you guys need anyone. I just was a bit shocked that you guys loaned out the Hood. Has that just not worked out at all? The Hood.
It's a couple of things. It just hasn't worked out, and he's clearly fallen out with Roberto De Zerbi. De Zerbi publicly criticised his attitude in training 3 or 4 weeks ago, just before they went to Dubai for winter training, and it had to be done quickly because, of course, the German window closes in only a couple of hours. So, but yeah, it's a loan with an option to buy, I think, of around £8 million, which is good for us. We got him for nothing from Borussia Dortmund. So from a Brighton point of view, that's really good business. We could do with another central midfielder, but Jakob Moder's back from injury. We've got Carlos Baleba, who should get more minutes between now and the end of the season. So we'll just have to see what happens. And a main thing with Brighton, as you were talking about injuries earlier, we just need injured players to come back or players to return from international duty. Adingra from AFCON and Matoma from the Asian Cup. So even though the form recently has not been fantastic, stuff could happen between now and the end of the season. Even though we do have to improve.
I 100% agree. I think it's not been all amazing for Bayern this season. I think we kind of all knew after last season things were going to change. I thought. Mm-hmm. I think you are missing Caicedo and McAllister in tiny bits, but I do think you should give Carlos a bit more time to play because I'm seeing a lot of problems in that midfield. Like Luton were just one ball straight over the top, they're through, and that was just really awful to watch. And I was disappointed as well in Steele. I thought Steele was absolutely shite that game. And, I personally want to see De Zerbi play more Bar.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Brighton fans have been asking for that. But as I've said before, Steele has a greater understanding of what De Zerbi wants. And De Zerbi has that so high on importance. And that's part of the reason why Baleba hasn't maybe had the starts or the minutes that we would all like him to have. Because I know De Zerbi says he's not ready, he's only 19, but you're only going to get ready by playing.
Exactly.
There's only so much you can do in training. So hopefully that will change. Hopefully that... And also, you need to run a games, because Baleba will get a start and then not start for 4 or 5 matches. And I know that they would have told us to Baleba when he joined, you need to be patient, you need to wait, but it's very difficult when you don't have a run of games.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a young player. He's only had a year less than a year, I think, in the first team in Lille before we bought him. So, but Carlos is going to be fantastic. As you said, he's that profile of Caicedo. Of course, we were going to miss Caicedo and McAllister and Trossard when he went. That's a given when you lose. When you're a club like Brighton and we lose players like that, we're going to miss them. But we have to keep reinventing ourselves. We have to keep finding solutions. Because in the summer, there's every chance João Pedro will leave. Every chance João Pedro will leave. There's every chance that Purvis Estupiñán could go because clubs are looking for top left-backs. There's not many of them around and Purvis is one of them. And there's 1 or 2 others that could go... Van Heck's impressing and is knocking on the doors of the Holland squad. You've got Billy Gilmore's been fantastic this season and could attract interest. Evan Ferguson's not been great in recent weeks, but he's a striker with very, very high potential. So, we have to be prepared for that, and the club will be. The club will be. Bloom always thinks more the long term. That's why we're not. Because other clubs would be panicking now and trying to get a central midfielder or 2 in because we've lost the Hood. We've got Moda, we've got Belieber, we've got Milner, Jack Inchwood can play in there. We've got others to come back as well. We've got BARCA coming in who can play wider. That opens up players to be able to play more centrally. So, yeah, we need to improve. I think we need to become less predictable in our play and maybe tweak the lineup in the system a little bit. But it's been a fantastic season, and we're still in the Europa League, and I'm just enjoying it as a Brighton fan.
Oh yeah,
with my Brighton hat on, I'm just enjoying it.
100%, and I do think you'll go far in the Europa League. Of course, we'll find out our hopefully, I think end of this month. Yeah, I think sometime this month we're gonna find out who we get. Both our teams get in the draw.
Both our clubs topped our group, so we get a thing to the next round. So
and hopefully both avoid Bayer Leverkusen, because I don't want to be playing them. But
that's going to be a really, really tough test for anyone in.
I would love to see us two being in the final four of the Europa League, because I genuinely believe with luck and the way of the draw, we could have one where Liverpool once are Bayern, once are Liverpool Bayern final. I don't think it'll happen. I genuinely believe I've really got it written in the stars. The final, the Europa League this season, is going to be Klopp v Xavi. I can see it happening. It's going to be written in the stars.
Xabi Alonso's final game as the Bayer Leverkusen manager,
as Klopp,
he's likely to join in the summer.
Yeah, and then Xabi leaves Klopp, lets Klopp win the treble, not the treble, the treble, not the treble, because the treble is Champions League. But I think you guys have done okay this season. I still think you'll finish in Europe this season. That's maybe. Like, even if you finish in the Conference League, it's not the end of the world, because it is still Europe. And you're still developing as a
definitely.
club. The same with Newcastle. Newcastle might be going, we didn't get Champions League. But they've not been in Europe for a long, long time, and they get Europe. I think when you're a club like Newcastle and Bayern, any Europe is fine. As long as you're in Europe, you're making you more money, and then you can improve the team and then get that up to the hopefully being in the Champions League. Because I think in the summer you're going to have to replace Caicedo and McAllister, because those are the two players that I think nearly got you in that Champions League last year.
Well, we'll try. It'll be very difficult for Brighton to do that, because we don't pay the high wages. We don't. We look in a different market to your Liverpools and your Newcastles and those other clubs. Caicedo's replacement is already here. It's Belieber.
Yeah.
We just need Belieber to be given that time and that trust. Replacing Maka was always going to be different, and hopefully it's just a case of keeping this group together for as long as we can. That's the aim, because the more they play together, the better they'll become. But it's going to be very difficult, because we know there'll be interest in the Stupinian, in Matoma, in Cisse when he comes back. We've got Ansu, but I don't think there's any way Ansu stays with us next season unless it's another loan deal. So we'll just have to go season by season. And you said Brighton could re-qualify for Europe. I think we'll get top 10, but I'm not sure we'll qualify for Europe, because I think particularly the further we go in the Europa League, the more the focus that will go on that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You'll start resting players in the league just to go and try and get further in the Europa League, and I really
at some point that will happen.
Yeah,
if we go far enough, that will happen.
And I don't understand, and especially let's say you do get like a Bayer Leverkusen, you're gonna go. We want all our best players 100% fit and ready for that game, because it is it's a huge game in a huge European Cup competition. You're going to want to take it seriously. And I just have a feeling that you will, because I have a feeling that once Cisse comes back and the injuries come back, because I do think you guys have been very impacted by injuries as well, the same as Newcastle.
Absolutely.
That's why I think both of you guys have been not as good this season, because the whole system's fallen apart because the players have been unavailable for it. And, it's especially why I'm very happy with everything that's going on at Liverpool at the moment, is because I like the way Klopp announced he was leaving now, because I think that's the way of the fans and the players being together of every single game left in this season is now a cup final.
Yeah.
And what a way would be to Klopp to end his reign by winning a quadruple, not the quadruple, because the real quadruple was 21-22, where we somehow didn't win the Champions League because we absolutely pammed Real Madrid, but for some reason could not score. I was like, we hit
Thibaut Courtois.
We hit the post, we put it wide, we put it at Thibaut Courtois 50 million times. I was like, I'm genuinely convinced if Liverpool had team we had right now with a better CDM and stuff like that, we would have won that Champions League, because Real Madrid, Vinicius deserved the goal and stuff like that. But if you look at that game, we practically were what City did to them last year, but we just couldn't score. We should have won that game 4-5-0. I think if it's any other keeper, it's 4-5-0 Liverpool.
And that could be the thing that affects Real Madrid in this year's Champions League, because of course Courtois out for the season. Even though Lunin and Kepa are good goalkeepers, none of them are anywhere near the. Who
Madrid got in the draw?
I'm just trying to.
Was it Leipzig? No, it's not Leipzig, is it?
It might be Leipzig, actually.
Let me check.
Let me have a quick. I've forgotten.
It is Leipzig.
It is Leipzig. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Madrid will get through that, to be honest.
Yes, but of course, if I was thinking more about, if they come up against
City again, if they come against City again, they're losing. 100% convinced of that. And I'm trying to think anyone else.
I think it's one of those. I think Real Madrid would beat City at the Bernabeu. It's what the difference is from if City could turn it around at the Etihad.
Yeah, but I think if let's say Real Madrid beat them 1-0, and then they win 3-1 in the at the Etihad, they win that, and I think, but even though I think it's gonna be bad at Bayern at the moment, I think there's a lot of injuries, and I don't know why De Ligt is not starting and stuff like that. I think De Ligt, Bayern will be a problem this season in the Champions League, because I think Kane wants to. He has a point to prove. Kane, after leaving Tottenham,
absolutely,
he's got a point to prove, and I think that might be a problem as well. So I think those are my two favourites, Man City and even though never count out Real Madrid, I've seen enough of Madrid this season where they've just not impressed me this season, Real Madrid. But in the Champions League, different story. We saw in the season where they won the Champions League against us, against Liverpool, a lot of their games, they were shit. But every time it's the aura and the history of Real Madrid. Even though they were playing really shit, they always came back.
And quickly, just to say that, and when you're in the Champions League like that, it's about moments. It's about the big moments, and that's what Real Madrid have done for so many years. They just get them right. Bellingham's been fantastic, and he'll lead them. Vinny's getting better. Rodrigo's playing quite well. The only thing that goes against Real Madrid this season is for the fact that they don't have Courtois at one end, and they don't have a top striker at the other.
Yeah.
But if any club could win the Champions League with those two things missing, it's Real Madrid.
100%. Quickly before we go, this is the last question I'm going to ask you before we finish. Mbappe next summer. For me, I think it suits Madrid very well, but it doesn't as well, because Mbappe has made it very clear many times, I do not want to play as a 9. But in Madrid, he's going to have to play 9, because he's not dropping Vinicius and he's not dropping Rodrigo. So he's going to have to play one position, which is 9. So, and listen, I would love it. The only other club that's been in conversations with Mbappe, other than Madrid, as everyone knows, has been Liverpool, because his mum is a huge Liverpool fan. But it is expensive as hell. And for me, no matter what, if Mbappe joins Liverpool, he plays left wing, starts. He goes ahead of Diaz, goes ahead of Darwin Núñez, he starts left wing every game. For you, who makes more sense Mbappe coming to? I think probably be more from Madrid. But do you think it'd suit Madrid because of the fact he doesn't want to play 9, and he will have to?
Unless Carlo comes up with a different system thing, because of course Carlo is likely staying now because he's renewed his contract.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as you said, from a tactical point of view, it makes more sense for him to go to Liverpool with everything else, the money, the status, not taking anything away from Liverpool because they're a massive club, as you know. But Real Madrid, and it's one that keeps going, that never goes away. And Florentino Perez, we know when he wants a player, when he wants to do something, generally it happens. If I was Real Madrid, would I sign Mbappe? I wouldn't. I think there's a lot of baggage and status things and the situation things. It depends. Unless you've got a Kroos and your Modric and those big characters in the Real Madrid dressing room, if they think, like, we'll manage him, we'll get Mbappe in line. Because Mbappe, if he goes to Madrid, he'll want to feel like best in the world.
Yeah.
I am the main guy. I'm the guy of Real Madrid. That rarely, if at all, ever happens at Real Madrid. Because the message is always the badge on the front more important than whatever name on the back. And it just depends on if I was Carlo Ancelotti or Florentino and I spoke to Mbappe and I generally felt there wasn't going to be any sort of problems in that dressing room, I'd do it in a heartbeat. My concern is for the fact that that dressing room is really close together at the moment. They're all going in the right direction, and Mbappe could derail that because, as you said, he won't want to play in the middle. He'll want to play on the left, which is where Vinny plays. Unless they tell him you've got to play on the right and we'll play Rodrigo through the middle, which is the only likelihood I see it working. But, you know, Mbappe's been very strong in terms of basically things have to happen his way.
Yeah.
That won't work at Real Madrid because Real Madrid will tell him, this is what we do, you adapt to it, or you go wherever.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, the likelihood is it will happen because, as I've mentioned, Real Madrid and Florentino, when they want someone as badly as they want Kylian Mbappe, they find a way of making it happen. And the other thing to mention is that Mbappe will be under humongous pressure, not just because it's him, not because it's Real Madrid, it's the fact that he could have gone to Real Madrid 2 years ago and he said no. And he's made a rod for his own back, by the way, because, in my opinion, you know, if Real Madrid come calling, you just say, yes, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
You don't say, yes, and then, oh no, because PSG have chucked a lot of money at you. You don't do that. So I think if he goes to Madrid, because it's still an if, we don't know, he's going to be under pressure from the first minute of the opening day in La Liga to perform, and perform well.
Yeah.
And he's going to be under an element of that pressure anyway, because of all the stuff I mentioned. But there's going to be added pressure, because if things don't go well, the Real Madrid fans will remember him, will tell him, you could have come here 2 years ago.
Yeah. And
you've basically convinced the whole world you were going to come, and you didn't.
100%. And, you know, for me, I would love him at Liverpool. I've said this many, many times. You know, he's got friends. Well, he's got a friend at Madrid and Tchouameni from the French team. Camavinga as well. We've got Kanate at Liverpool. And I really do think I've been very impressed with Virgil van Dijk's leadership skills. And I really do think if he came to Liverpool, you'll have Virgil beside him, and Virgil would kind of tell him, you know, no one's bigger than the club here. And I think, you know, Mbappe would start on the left wing. You start pretty much every game. But then again, when he comes to Liverpool, they have the same pressure because, you know, it's a big character and he probably will be the one to replace Salah. So there's going to be pressure on him there because he's going to have to deliver and put Salah's numbers up, which I don't think he will because I think Salah just fits the system perfectly. And I think, for me, Mbappe will go to Madrid, but I wouldn't be surprised if he came to Liverpool. And I think if he come to Liverpool, I think that's where he'd play better because I think at Madrid, he's going to play down the middle and it's not his strong point. His strong point is off the left. And I think with him and maybe Andrew Robertson kind of combining with Alexis on the left as well and Liverpool get a proper CDM, I think it'd be a very good combination. But before we end, Kelvyn, let people know where they can find you on X or Twitter, whatever they call it these days.
Yeah, so mine is at Kelvyn Brown 19 on X.
Perfect. And people will hopefully be back next week or the week after for our episode 4 of La Liga Unleashed, because this is technically episode 3, but it's the transfer latest version because, of course, it's deadline day. We can't do a show and not talk about transfers. So next week, we'll be back to talking about what's been happening in La Liga, talking about all the results, predicting, seeing he's better at predicting and stuff. So are there any interesting fixtures to look at for next week? Thank you for coming on, Kelvyn, first live show. And we'll see you all next